You're watching Oilers Nation Radio.
It's finally my turn to talk today. Finally. Welcome to Oilers Nation Radio. Trade deadline day. No Rick today. He's got a real job. He's got adult big boy things to do. Dan had some other stuff to do. So we got Zach Lang sitting in today. Tyler, Liam. Just finished up Oilers Nation every day. Tyler finished up a 5-hour trade deadline show. How you doing over there, pal?
Good. I'm having a Gatorade. Had some Oodle Noodle.
Yep.
Thinking about having a Nation beer. Just thinking about a lot of things right now.
A little nap later, maybe?
I don't know. I was kind of telling Aaron, I was like, I'm kind of more in the mood to just have like 7 beers.
I think, do we have any cold ones? I'd love a beer right now.
I've ones, they're brewing in the fridge upstairs.
All right.
Didn't want to put them down here because you never know who can get their hands on.
Waz. Rascals.
Waz would get his
Thank
hands
you.
on them.
He's been on the hunt here today.
Waz has been looking for beers. He is currently pacing, looking for them as we speak right now.
Before
Walking
Waz was talking to Eli and was like, "Hey, can we do a video?" He's like, "Yeah, let's do it." He's like, "Step into my office."
Waz said that to Eli?
Waz said that to
Waz
Eli.
does not have an office.
Which office is
It's
his?
the room next door, and then he called it the creative suite.
Oh, I like that.
Generally, okay, I'm good.
You guys, you don't have the big ideas.
No.
No,
Waz has the big
I
ideas.
don't. My brain isn't big enough.
We got a lot of trade deadline talk to get through. Got to make sure Tyler stays awake. Zach,
Hello.
you keep an eye on Tyler over there.
I got my eyes on him.
He's going to be a sleepy boy after what he's had done today. We're going to start off with the delicious debate as we always do. We are pumped to partner with Odd Company Brewing to bring you Nation Beer Everyday Lager. Perfect for the next big game, your next go-to lager, or like Tyler said, to recover from the trade deadline. Either your happiness or your sadness, wherever you come out on what the Edmonton Squadron did today. Find it at either Odd Company Brewing location here in Edmonton or at liquorconnect.com. It's kind of like a search engine. You just type it on in there, Nation Beer, and it'll find all the liquor stores near you that sell it. And if they don't, ask why. Your Nation Beer Everyday Lager today. I am not doing the rotational thing. I don't even know whose turn it is for the
It's yours.
debate. Oh, is it?
You actually haven't done it yet since we
Perfect.
started rotating. So it's
Perfect.
worked nicely.
I'm up. Easy question today for the delicious debate, boys. Did the Edmonton Oilers do enough at the trade deadline? Zach, you're our guest today. Let's start with you.
Oh, well, that's mighty kind of you guys. I'm kind of a little bit torn on it right now. I just had a column go up at OilersNation.com where I kind of expressed concern that they maybe didn't quite do enough. I mean, you take a look at what some of these other teams did in the West. I mean, Dallas picking up Mikko Rantanen, that's a huge addition there. Colorado, they probably got better over the last 24 hours. I like the pickups for the Oilers. I do. Like Trent Frederic, Max Jones. I think they're going to fit in well. Good game for Maximum against the Habs on Thursday.
Nice
night
first
there.
impression.
Yeah, very nice first impression. Jake Wallman just landed in Edmonton apparently, so that's pretty exciting. I'm really excited to see him. I think he's going to be a really nice addition, but I kind of feel like I'm left wanting more a little bit. Maybe I'm just greedy. I don't know.
Liam, what do you think?
I'm okay with what they did. I don't disagree with you. I think adding like a top 6 forward would have been good. I think we'll just get to the point where Matthews is always just on this team full time, and that can just be that top 6 guy. Obviously, had a pretty decent showing, minus the one game against the Ducks, where quite frankly everyone was terrible, so it doesn't even matter that much. So I'm okay with what they did. Obviously, Trent Frederic hasn't played yet, nor Jake Wallman. We'll see him much sooner than what we'll see Trent Frederic, but I understand the idea of everyone else did so much, but I feel like the Oilers did a good job of filling holes. And it's hard, they had 3, 4, if you want to include the goaltending, glaring holes, but I think they filled them in quite nicely.
Are you out coming from my microphone?
Do you have
What's
a
happening
take
right
to give, Jay?
Yeah. Are you excited about the Oilers trade deadline, Jay?
I have actually kind of a lead balloon today, wasn't it, folks? Thoughts
On the Oilers?
today specifically?
Oh, I mean, they do this every year. This is kind of their thing, right? They finish early.
Fair. Well, I feel like they should have done more. That's my take.
What should they have done?
What should they have
Yeah,
done?
what did you want?
What did I want?
Talking to the mic.
Okay, I guess I'm being looped in here. What did I want?
Is this what you came in here to do?
No, I had a question for BM.
Okay.
In the middle of a podcast, but it's a very quick question to answer. Because I'm getting something sorted right now. Not a big fan of Wallman. I think Ferraro would have been the better get, and he was on the trade bait board. So obviously something we should have thought about. I think he's more of a better fit culturally. We need that dog. And then, maybe some more depth in the bottom six. If we would have got the Ferraro Cunnin dream that we had, Liam,
Yeah.
I would have been very
Cunning's
happy.
not good though.
We
Max
agree.
Jones might be better than Luke Cunning.
Well, this is an interesting development.
maximum.
Maximus.
Oil,
yeah.
Oilers to the max.
Oh, this to the max. Hashtag Tyler
Yeah.
coined it. Get a t-shirt out. Nationgear.ca.
We can't do that.
So we're going to continue this conversation in order to drown out the corporate questions that are being handled behind the scenes. Anyways, I look, Zach, and I get what you're saying, like a Brad Marchand or something.
In
would have
case
been
you're
good.
wondering, Jay wants to know if my analytics access was far-reaching or just the Nation Network sites.
Okay.
Fascinating.
There you go.
He could have texted me.
That could have been a tech.
The answer is no.
The funny thing about all these load ups, and I think this applies out east, and we'll probably talk about the east in a bit, is the likely groups of four when you look at the pure bracket that'll be the Western Conference. It's gonna be Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, and then like Calgary, and then it's gonna be Edmonton, Vegas, LA, and Mini. Edmonton did more than Mini. Edmonton did more than LA. Edmonton did more than Vegas. Like for their path to the conference finals, Edmonton did the most.
Yeah, and they're the minimum the conference final is obviously a minimum of what they need to accomplish in the playoffs this year. And I think that's fair, like their side of the bracket, if it falls that way, especially with Minnesota, then the Oilers should on paper be the best team. I know Vegas obviously a top team as well, but it's kind of those two. Like I think Johnny said it on the deadline show today, and I openly yelled in the office like that is false. He said like Vegas is by clear the best team in the Pacific. It's like the Oilers were leading the Pacific going into the Four Nations break and just had a terrible start when they came
10
back.
days or whatever it is.
And it's just like, no, Vegas is good. Do not get me wrong, but like the Oilers top four is solid. Vegas obviously have a solid defense too. I think the Oilers forward group is probably slightly better, or if not just as good as Vegas. Goaltending is obviously the debate, but let's not act like Aiden Hill's a superstar either.
For me, I would have loved another top six forward.
Mhm.
But at the same point, I think sometimes we think it's easier to get those trades done than they are. Like I transcribed this Stan Bowman presser for Oilers Nation on socials, and he kind of said, he goes, listen, if you guys knew what we were working on behind, and I'm paraphrasing here, if you guys knew what we were working on behind the scenes, maybe this wouldn't even be a question. But he goes, some teams that you try to call for a trade, and again, I'm paraphrasing, they're looking for a roster player. They don't want your draft picks or prospects. They're in a completely different spot. So for us, we're trying to add players, not get rid of players.
I think there can be a lack of understanding when it comes to that too. Like the Oilers, as we know, everyone has a no movement clause, so they didn't have many players to actually move on from. And the players that they would have potentially moved on from, like, don't have a lot of cap, and can be impactful players on this team. Like we talked just briefly, I know we need then, like, and I'll ask this question too. Delicious debate part 2, anybody? Was there a trade today that you would have liked to have seen the Oilers match? Like hypothetically, been like, I'm disappointed the Oilers didn't do this trade because of this.
I don't know the Brad Marchand return yet.
Yeah, so we don't know that at this point. That one might piss me off, to be honest.
So like when he was asked specifically, and I think it was Ryan Rashog that asked the question, were you in on Rantanen and Marchand? His answer was, and I quote, "We took a swing at a lot of things, but I don't want to comment specifically on those players. I will say we were aggressive in trying to make things happen, but obviously nothing did." So,
well, listen, there was something floating around on social today, and I haven't tried to find it to listen to it myself. But apparently Brian Lawton was on a show somewhere and said that the Oilers were really aggressive after Rantanen and just couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, makes sense. Like, you take a look at the return that they got, Logan Stankoven, really high-end.
and all the picks.
NHL player right now, and all of the draft picks, right? I mean, like, I would have loved to see them try and take that swing. I think it's understandable that they didn't. I mean, they had
Especially
some
because you wouldn't have had
limitations.
an extension.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You would have probably been bringing Rantanen in as a pure rental.
And the only way I think that deal works, the only way the Oilers could have matched it, and it wouldn't work because this you can't go back in time, is if Savoy had been on the team all year and Savoy is your Stankoven. That's the closest thing the Oilers have to a Stankoven.
But I don't even think Savoy would be in that same tier.
Because I think Savoy would be. It's hard to say because
Well,
he's only
I
played
say
like
that
5
because
games, but I think Savoy's a better
Stankoven-
prospect.
I think Stankoven has a bigger impact on an NHL roster right now than Savoy.
But no, that's what I mean. Like the only way it could happen is Savoy played game 1 and he's already played 60 games
Right.
under his belt, but
Yeah.
he hasn't. So it's a pure hypothetical. The one trade I liked, and again, like the Oilers wouldn't have been able to do this. I kind of like what Ottawa were able to do to get Fabian Zetterlund.
I was actually going to say the exact same thing.
They traded Noah Gregor and Zach Ostapchuk and a second round pick and got Zetterlund, Tristan Robbins, and a 4th round pick. Like that would have been a solid pickup for the Oilers. But again, like they don't have those assets because they don't have a boatload of prospects like Ottawa would.
Third delicious debate.
Whoa,
What are the Sabres doing?
nothing
Great
but
question.
good.
I
Lots
don't
of people are
understand them at all.
I don't get it either. Like you're giving up Dylan Cousins and a 2nd round pick for an injury prone Josh Norris. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, like them having to they should have been given more for that.
Yes.
But they added.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just they like no team in the NHL confuses me more than the Buffalo Sabres.
It makes no sense. It just reeks of desperation. It reeks of making a move to say you made a move.
Yeah, like I like Josh Norris. I think he's a good player
I think so too.
when he plays. But
It feels like
Yeah.
Kevin Adams was told, if you don't do something at the deadline, you're fired. And he was like, oh boy, I
At least
better
he
do
didn't
something.
Trade JJ Peterka and get fleeced on it, I guess.
Well, that's a plus. And I think if you're a Sabres fan now, you're hoping he gets fired before he can make that trade at the draft. But like you brought this up before, Liam, Jason Zucker, Anthony Beauvillier got a 2nd round pick. What are you doing not getting the 2nd round pick for Jason Zucker, even for nothing more than to flip it at the draft?
Like
Yeah.
you couldn't have moved Alex Tuck for a 1st. Like you could have got a 1st for Alex Tuck.
Yeah.
I think the Oilers would have given a 1st for Alex Tuck, to be
Absolutely.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's they did a terrible job. Shocking to absolutely no.
Is this 14 years now that they'll miss? 14 years in a row, or is it 13?
Do you know what's funny? We had Ennis on the show yesterday, and he said when I played in the playoffs with Buffalo, I was like, that must have been a long, long time.
You're
ago.
dating yourself.
I think
Tyler.
it was 2008.
Yeah, Daniel Briere was still playing.
Yeah, like Ryan Miller was their goalie
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Chris
Oh,
Drury
shit.
was not a GM.
Yeah,
He was
He was on the team.
Derek
Yeah.
Waugh was a young boy and never heard of
Matthew
Nail
Barnaby
Yakupov.
was not a co-host with Tyler on the Daily
yeah.
Faceoff Trade Deadline show. He was on the Sabres.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like at least Boston, and again, the Marchand return will kind of change all, but at least Boston, I think you can justify what they did today, even though they traded all their guys to rivals, which is crazy. But you can at least justify it by being like, you look at Pittsburgh and the way it just got rotten, and Boston sitting there going, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to get in front of this thing.
And I also I can almost predict it already. Brad Marchand goes back in the offseason.
I could see that too.
You know what I mean? Like go take a run. Come on back.
Yeah.
We'll see you later.
Jay Rosell just tweeted, I don't know where this came from. On Rantanen, and Toronto offered Fraser Mitten, Easton Cowan, and 2 1st-round picks for Rantanen, and it was turned down.
Wow.
They obviously
But-
wanted like NHL players.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say that.
I'm also curious though if that maybe would have been again contingent on the extension.
Maybe
Yeah.
I would have also said, hey, do you want Matthew Nyes?
Only if you get him extended.
Everybody,
Absolutely,
like,
yeah, the
yeah.
extension is part of it
Yeah.
too, but like Matthew.
Oh, yeah.
Rantanen.
everybody in Toronto that like I follow on Twitter was like, I will never give up Matthew Nyes for Mikko Rantanen. I'm
Ja-
like, why not?
I
The
think it-
overdrive guys yesterday, they were like, would you trade Nyes for an extended Rantanen? They're all like, oh, you just can't. And I'm like,
Why?
oh no, he's a Hall of Famer. You can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is actually I would have traded basically anyone on the Oilers to get Rantanen on this team.
Back to the delicious debate, Tyler. Did the
Which
Oilers
one?
do enough?
Oh,
Which one?
I think they did, given the context of the
V1 anyway.
of the market, right? Like, was there a goalie trade out there for them to make? I mean, I guess we don't know, but everyone was quick to do the like Alex Lyon. Just go get Alex Lyon now. And it's like, one, if you think you have any idea what Steve Yzerman's doing, you're lying because
Question. Fourth delicious debate. Is the Iser plan a sham?
oh yeah, that is a middle level marketing scheme or whatever. That's selling knives to your neighbors, friends, and families. Like that thing is a full on scam.
I was hoping you'd trade for more goalies today, to be honest.
Yeah. But like, was there a goalie trade out there for someone like Alex Lyon who was cheap enough the Oilers could fit him in? We don't know. Maybe that's disappointing. And I get that a lot of people are going to say that's disappointing, but like they went and got Trent Frederic and paid less than other guys of Trent Frederic's range went for, and they got him twice
Do
retained.
you have a comparable for those listening?
Sorry, which one, sorry?
For
like-
Frederic, who would be a good, like I'm thinking
Like
I'm
a
just-
trade that you're saying, like, well, the Oilers paid less than this trade for X player.
Yeah, so they didn't have to give up
Oh.
a first round pick. I like Frederic more than I like Tanev. Tanev went for a second. I get they gave up a little bit more there.
I mean, there was no retention involved, so I think this helps the prospects. But Scott Lawton was traded for a first round pick.
Yeah.
That was 50%.
He's got term.
He's a defenseman, no, but Luke Shen, I know he has term as well, but he's also Luke Shen, 35 years old, and that does not have a good cap hit. Was a second round pick.
So, and for Wallman, like when you look at what Carlo went for, it's easy to think that the ask, if the Oilers were talking about Carlo, would have probably been Savoy or O'Reilly in a first round pick. So, like, again, to get Wallman and Frederic to pay the prices they did, and considering what else I'll say didn't happen around the league, lack of comparable deals, like I think they did do enough.
I like the Frederic deal. Like,
I
I
do
really
too.
do. I mean, the way that I look at it is this: like Shane LeChance wasn't going to sign here, so like whatever, right?
Wash, yeah.
Max Warner, like what's his ceiling? Vincent Desharnais? Like really? Like he's at best a number 6 defenseman for you. You can go and find a number 6 defenseman pretty easily, right?
And
if you can't draft and develop another Max Warner, then you're not good at drafting and developing.
well, and your blue line now is set it and forget it till the end of next season, because it is just again Bush with Ekholm, Nurse with Wallman, Kulak with Emerson. You need a 7 or 8, like, and it's Stetcher because he signed too. So like again, I like that point, Zach. They dealt expendable pieces to get a premium rental.
People get so
And
upset.
you
about
never
these
know.
prospects.
Like Trent Frederic could not be a rental.
They
You never
could
know.
be-
He's still only 27 years old.
and his brother loves Edmonton.
That's my favorite part. They
Yeah.
were talking about him to him on the broadcast and how jacked up his brother was that he was going to the Oilers. That's very funny to me. Chime in on any of the 4 delicious debates. Hit us up for our friends at Odd Company. Hit us up on social. I want to know. Do you think the Oilers did enough? I don't remember what the other 3 were.
Your one trade that you wish the Oilers made.
Right.
That was actually real.
And what's going on with Buffalo Sabres?
Yes.
Look, I want to look at what the Oilers did get done, but first I got to give a shout out to our friends at Oodle Noodle. They supplied lunch for the office today. Delicious as always. We love our Oodle Noodle. And now I'm going to ask you to go get the app. Download the Oodle Noodle app, order takeout or delivery. It's easy and you can earn free Oodle Noodle. Sign up for the loyalty program through the app. New customers get 1,500 loyalty points, which is about a $15 value just for signing up. The Oodle Noodle app is available on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. We played a little Prices Right on the staff order today, and congratulations goes out to Zach Lang for correctly guessing what the staff order was today, or at least being close to without going over. Prices Right rules. Always.
I was very under.
Yeah, you were way under.
I was also quite under, to be fair, but I was still the closest.
If we were still the closest, I would have been 1, but I would have won, but because it was Prices Right rules, I lost.
Shame.
So there you have it.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Either way, go get yourself some Oodle Noodle. If you get the Tokyo Glaze, which is what Tyler got today, 10% of the proceeds from those boxes will be donated to Sports Central. It is the Q1, quarter 1. That is January, Feb, March for all of you.
Who don't. live
That
in
is the
corporate
community
world.
box. Sometimes I forget that we say that shit all the time around here.
And everyone knows.
And everybody's yeah, Q1, of course. Let's look at what the Oilers did get done. So our 3 new friends, Trent Frederic, Max Jones, Maximum Jones,
Yeah.
and
Jones
Jake Wallman.
Barbecue, foot massage.
I want to start with Trent Frederic a little bit. If you don't know, because I haven't watched him a whole lot. I've watched him with the Bruins a handful of times, but I admit I haven't watched him a whole lot. Max Jones, I just heard of as a person for the first time yesterday. And Jake Wallman, I was getting a bunch of people, including our boy Stephen Ellis from Daily Faceoff, tell me about him. So I want to start with Trent Frederic. What do the Oilers got with him, Tyler?
They got a big body who can play up and down your lineup and who has some pretty good scoring metrics. Like I was looking, his points per 60 at 5-on-5 is higher than both Nuge and Henrique. If you want to talk about the 3C, that being higher than Nuge, considering Nuge gets to play with McDavid all the time, that's a really impressive number because it's not like Trent Frederic was playing with David Pasternak or anything like that, right? So and this was a point I made coming into the deadline, but like Adam Henrique, when they acquired him, everyone was like, whoa, 20-some goal guy, all this stuff. And then you slot him into the 3C spot on the Oilers and you're like, he's not scoring. And it's like, okay, well, in Anaheim, he was a top line left winger center who got power play time and played 20 minutes a game. So like a little bit different. Trent Frederic, whoa, he scores in his limited ice time. So they're getting a guy who, if you want him to be your 3C, you can count on some offense, count on him to bang bodies and go hard to the net. And if you want to put him up to be a winger, I think he could play with Leon Draisaitl. I think he could keep up in that style of game. Not that he's a burner, but he's not slow. So I think they got kind of a jack of all trades, or as he called himself, what did he call himself? Freddie Fillin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like as I was looking at his scoring totals, again, just trying to learn about our new friend, you got a guy who scores with limited minutes. It's kind of like the way I thought about it from an Oilers perspective is everybody loves how much Corey Perry is scoring, playing only around 12 minutes, give or
Yeah.
take. Trent Frederic kind of does the same thing. He scores unlimited minutes. So like that is a good thing for a team that is struggling to score. Zach, thoughts on Trent Frederic?
Yeah, I like it. I think one of the things that's most appealing to me about him is the fact that he gets to the dirty areas on the ice. Like he gets to the net. And I don't think there's been enough of that from the Edmonton Oilers this year. There's really been a reluctance to go to those dirty, greasy areas. So if he can come in and do that, I'm a fan for sure. And I like your idea, Tyler, of having him up with Leon Draisaitl. I think he's a really good winger for him. You know, Chris Knoblaw was talking last week at some point about needing more people to be going to the net on Draisaitl's line. You know, Victor Arvidsson hasn't really done that this year. Vasily Podkolzin, I mean, he's kind of starting to flame out a little bit in his spot up there on that top six role. So, yeah, I think Frederic's going to be a really nice fit in that middle six group, I think we'll just call it.
Yeah.
Liam?
I'm excited for what he can bring to the team. I think when you look back at the Anaheim game the other day, obviously it did not go the other's way in any department, but I think he would have had an impact on that game and helped the others kind of drag themselves back into it. And I think that's very important piece to have on the team.
I want to save Maximum Jones for last because we did get a chance to see him last night. What about Jake Wallman? What do the Oilers got in him?
Top 4 defenseman, which they needed.
Puck mover, right? And I do think you can look back through Darnell Nurse's career. He works best with puck movers. You know, maybe a little bit nervous about how he can defend off the rush, but I felt like a puck mover was needed here, especially when you look back at how they lost to the Panthers last year. And Wallman is that. He is a puck mover. So again, a guy who's signed. So I don't mind giving up the 2026 first, because at next year's deadline, this should be, for the first time, next trade deadline, the first trade deadline in the Connor McDavid era, where we're not going, boy, they really need a defenseman.
Well, I
'Cause
wouldn't say that.
Oh,
I wouldn't say that.
but like next year, they should have these 6 guys locked and loaded, ready to go, right? So I love the trade, and I think he'll be a really great fit, just because, again, scratches an itch, and he's been playing tough competition this year too.
From our boy NHL Sid at 5-on-5 this season, San Jose with Wallman on the ice -1, without Wallman on the ice -37. Zach, what are your thoughts on Wallman?
I love it. I love it. I mean, this is a guy who really impacts the game in a positive way. According to hockeyviz.com, his on-ice impacts, you know, encapsulating everything that he does, is like well above that of a first pairing defenseman. He's a very, very good defenseman who has played very tough competition this year and succeeded in doing so.
What kind of holes he got in his game?
Pardon me?
What holes are in his game?
I think, as Tyler mentioned, you know, defending off of the rush is a bit of an issue for him. Defensively, he's kind of more or less league average, which I think is fine. But his ability to move the puck up the ice is what I think is the biggest thing here in terms of his addition. The other thing that's really nice, the guy blocks a shitload of shots.
111 this season.
Blocks a
How would that
shitload of
factor
shots.
into our game that we've been playing over the last little bit with block shots?
That would help. Yeah, I think would lead the Oilers. Maybe Nurse has more than him.
Yeah, and his blocked shots per hour rate among Oilers defensemen, like he's 5.75 blocks per hour of ice time. That's like far and away first on the Edmonton Oilers blue line.
And I think too, like we joked the other day, right, of like who's even averaging half a blocked shot every 2 games on the Oilers or whatever we were joking about. Like you look at the players they brought in Frederic and Wallman, just specifically in this, like those are 2 guys who are going to address areas where the Oilers weren't seeing it enough from certain players. That like, hey, maybe they see that guy block a shot, they're more willing to block the next shot. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. Like Warriors seems like an aggressive term, but I think it's kind of fair to call them like guys who can go into that playoff mode and perform for you as well. I'm curious, like, the first assumption, I think this is where I'll start, is next to Darnell Nurse, but I wonder how long it'll be before they test out other things, and like maybe Nurse and Bouchard go together for a little bit, and all of a sudden Ekholm and Wallman are your top pairing defensemen, or whatever they kind of figure out amongst themselves. But I think he's a guy that gives you a ton of flexibility. He's also a left shot that plays on the right side, and I know everyone was screaming for a right shot defenseman, and rightfully so. It's a clear hole, but it didn't really matter. They just needed someone who could actually play on the right side, I think was a better way to put it. So I like him a lot. And then obviously we've got the best player to talk about next.
Maximum Jones.
Yes.
Last night, Oilers debut, and an eventful one, including a really nice pass to Corey Perry, who is flying as fast as he's ever been. Scored a beautiful goal, by the way. The hands are still there on Corey Perry. But Tyler, what were your first impressions of Max Jones? Were you at the game last night?
Yeah, I was. So I thought he moved really, really well. Like sometimes for a big guy, you're expecting them to just kind of like trudge along, and I felt like he never looked out of place because of his foot speed. So that was really, really good. You could tell it was a guy who was kind of motivated and fired up because he was hitting anything that moved and kind of going out of his way to play physical, which I get sometimes that'll go away once you settle into a role and all of that. You're not always going to have that first game adrenaline, but he's also very good with the puck on his stick. Obviously, he had that great back check and then the toe drag back the other way that had everyone buzzing. But like even in the third period, he had a chance where the puck came to him in the slot and like it got off his stick really quick. It wasn't a dusted off or whatever. He went, parked himself in the slot, puck on his stick, off his stick, quality scoring chance. And it's like, man, they need more Max Jones. More Max Jones.
Maximum Jones.
Max Jones.
Zach, what do you think of Max Jones?
New Ryan Jones?
Well, I've been waiting for a Jones to get behind since Ryan Jones left.
It's been a long time. I said yesterday, not for any reason other than he played for the Bruins and was once on waivers, but just reminded me of when the Oilers got Matt Fraser. That was special. Former first round pick, I believe, Matt Fraser too. Better vibes after watching the game though from Max Jones.
Maximum Fraser.
Maximum
Fraser Jones.
Holy moly. There's a lot of going on here. Played like a guy that didn't want to touch the American League again this season. And I respect it.
Well, he's been having a good year down there, like playing for Providence Bruins, 13 goals, 21 points in 38 games. I liked him. I think he'll be fine as a fourth liner, a guy who can kind of go out there and bang the body. That's something that's been missing in that bottom six. No disrespect to Kasperi Kapanen for the speed that he's brought to the Oilers lineup, but guy's not very physical down there. And I think the Oilers need some of that energy, some of that physicality in the bottom six.
They need a little sass.
Yeah.
And I think at least the two forwards they acquired, they bring a little sass. The other big thing that came out, sticking with the forwards, came out officially today. Noah Vander Kane until, well, at least for the regular season. Stan Bowman in his presser said they don't really know when he'll be back.
Liar.
But it won't be during the regular season.
Liar, pants on fire.
It would be funny if the Oilers were like, they didn't play him like game one of the playoffs. And they were like, look, we didn't even do what those other teams did. He's really hurt, which obviously he is. But I think, you'll see him back night one.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
Vegas had no idea when Mark Stone was coming back.
No.
And all of a sudden he's like, oh, wow, season's over. He's in a red shirt practicing for 20 minutes. Unbelievable.
Listen, those 5 days between the run into the regular season and the start of the playoffs, pivotal. Let's do some winners and losers from deadline day. Cool. I want to start with our losers. We always start with our veggies, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I'm looking at is in our division, and they're out west. What is going on in Vancouver? The Brock Besser stuff was wild today.
A quote from Alvin.
And apparently like the NHL all as a whole decided to lowball the Canucks on everything they wanted to do, which I'm all for. But I think that where they're at as a team, where they're at in the standings, even creating the opportunity to allow Brock Besser to walk to free agency is bananas to me. So the Vancouver Canucks
managed team in the NHL.
Yes, but last season everyone made it seem like they were like the bee's knees. Actually, I will
current
say,
term that all the kids use.
the Zadorov trade was a good one for them last season. 4th and 6th round pick or whatever.
Sure.
Being like that was solid, but obviously not being able to re-sign him. But yeah, bad luck.
Who's your loser?
I'm going to go West Coast. I'm going to say the LA Kings. I think if you're Vancouver, this is a lost season. You've traded like it's a shit show. So like whatever. If you're LA, you should have been sitting there going, is this our shot at beating the Oilers? If the goaltending's weak and they didn't, bring in some crazy big sexy name at the deadline, if I'm LA, I would have been calling on a Brock Besser. I would have been calling on anyone that could score, not acquiring Andrei Kuzmenko for a 3rd round pick and doing literally nothing else. So Rob Blake is in year 8 or 9. They have never won a playoff series with him at the helm. I felt like his job was on the line today. And if they lose to the Oilers because they can't score once again, he's probably getting fired.
William, what you got? Who's your big loser?
The Detroit Red Wings. They have more goalies than anyone ever. So they're a big one. Just like very unnecessary move to acquire Peter Mrazek for whatever reason, unless it's like something going on we don't know about yet, but that just feels unlikely and also unnecessary because you can just call up Sebastian Kosa. So yeah, they're the big one for me. The Eisenman plan just seems dumber and dumber every day. Like they give us a little glimpse every year of like it's working. Like we saw it in January, I think it was, right? They were like the best team in the league, top 5 team, whatever. And then Eisenman just doesn't help them out. So they're a massive loser for me.
I'm going to come back to the Eiserman thing here in a minute because how it factors into Wallman. That was obviously a big topic conversation last night when the trade got made. Zach, who's your big loser?
Well, you guys kind of hit the nail on the head. Tyler, you actually stole the Kings for me because I thought that they were going to try and really go out there and add like an impact top 6 player, Rantanen or something like that, right? Not that we ever really want them to be good ever again, but like what are the Calgary Flames doing? They did absolutely nothing. I'm kind of surprised by that. It really was a seller's market this year, and they did absolutely shit all, which I think is kind of hilarious. But I also think the Buffalo Sabres are losers for all of the reasons that we talked about earlier.
Calgary is such an interesting one because you obviously, I think a winning culture is more important than people want to give it credit. But you're right. Like maybe you should just turn around and see, like maybe we'll trade off like one guy. Like you remember last year, Philly obviously didn't end up making the playoffs, but like 3rd in the Metro all season. And we're like, we'll move Sean Walker. And then I think they re-signed Sealer, or maybe they acquired someone as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but maybe just do that. But they didn't. So suck it, Calgary.
Flip it around. Zach, you're up first. Who's your winner?
Oh man, the pressure. I love Mikko Rantanen going to the Dallas Stars. I think that's a huge move for them. Obviously, I think a lot of people were maybe expecting some additions to the blue line, just given the injuries that they've had there. But Thomas Harley's really stepped up in a big way. Like S. Lindell's been fine for them. They've got Edmonton Oilers legend Cody Ceci there manning the blue line right now.
Oh, yeah.
But getting Rantanen in there, I think, is a huge win for them. They're going to be a really scary team here in the West.
And just to piggyback off that for a second, just getting Rantanen and having him extended, it's like their window's cranked wide open. As much as like it'd be great for them to go on a run and win from their perspective, obviously not ours. Like if they don't win this year, next year they're going to be Stanley Cup favorites. And if they don't win next year, the year after they're Stanley Cup favorites.
And they got the deal done for Wyatt Johnson today too.
Yeah.
A couple year extension for him at $8.4 million. That's a really good deal for him.
What do you think it is with the Rantanen situation why do you think he was so unwilling to sign in Carolina, but then he ended up signing an extension in a place he's never even set footed?
Because I don't think he had a choice to be in Carolina. He had the option of going to Dallas. You know what I mean? Like he kind of got to pick his next spot. I think that really helped Dallas.
Is it because Rod Brind'Amour's an asshole?
Maybe. I mean, Eric Tulsky in his press conference today singled out. He's like, I believe in like our team, our organization, our coach, and the guys in our room. It's just not a fit for everyone, to paraphrase. And it's like, I think there might have been something there with Rantanen and Rod.
Liam, who's your big winner today?
Ottawa. And I know this may be like an underrated one, but I liked what they did. They're obviously a team that really wants to be in the playoffs, to go out and get Dylan Cousins and again Fabian Zetterlund. I think it's a really nice piece of business for them. And to get off a guy like Norris, who again I think he's a quality player, but like Zach's mentioned too, like injury prone. They had a lot of defensive prospects too. Bernard Dock is not a prospect, but still a young guy, so they moved on from him as well. I think good piece of business from Steady Steve.
Tyler, big winner for you?
I actually really like what the Leafs did to go out and listen, they paid a lot. They gave up 2 first-round picks and Fraser Minton. That is not a cheap price, but if you thought and felt like Lawton was the right piece, you got him at 50% retained, so he's $1.5 million this year and next year. Good. That gives you 2 runs. The other name they got, obviously the defenseman, Brandon Carlo, 2 more runs, got him 15% retained reportedly, or 3 more runs you'll get out of him. So they paid a lot, but next year they'll be sitting at the deadline with those 2 guys still on their team. So they still have some picks that they can dip into next year as well. Like whole bunch of options for the Leafs. And like Tampa Bay made a great deal. Tampa Bay stays loading up. Florida, whatever the return is for Marchand, I'll probably say it's a good trade. They went and got Seth Jones too. That's a fine move to make. I felt like Toronto kept pace in that division, and it's so funny to sit there and look and go, Florida, Toronto, Tampa. One of them's going home in round 1.
Lovely. Love it.
My big winner is still Tyler Toffoli. He signed a huge ticket with the San Jose Sharks. His season's almost done. Probably got a great tan.
He's
Yeah.
He's chilling.
He was having a sleepover the other day with Celebrini and Smith. Did you see that?
No.
Hilarious.
So they made a bet, and they were like, if all three of us score in the game, the two kids, Celebrini and Smith, told Tyler Toffoli, you have to have a sleepover with us. So then they had a picture. They're in their hotel room, and Tyler Toffoli's sleeping on a cot in between like the two beds with like the two 19-year-olds. It's so funny. But yeah, Tyler Toffoli is a winner.
He's a winner.
Played in the playoffs 7 to 12 years in his career. Then
Got
was
his
like,
cups.
I don't get paid for all that work.
2 rings.
He's got cups. You know, now he's got a great tan. Like I said, season's almost over. You can enjoy the summer.
Yep.
Do a little travel. Maybe eat a nice food and some nice food. You know?
San Jose's nice this time of year.
Hey, Tyler Toffoli. I respect it.
Yep.
I respect it. All right. Let's move it along. We got to get to the betting segment for our friends at Bet365. So what I've got for you guys today is an updated look at what the NHL futures look like. Now the trade deadline is wrapped, and it was interesting. I looked this morning and I'm like, okay, I'm curious to see how these numbers kind of adjust as the day goes. So I locked these in right after kind of the buzzer, like when the buzzer went and all the trades started trickling in kind of right after that. So we're going to look at what is going on. Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is always amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. An official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app today and use the code NATION. The code is NATION to get in on the game. You must be 19 years old or older, and please play responsibly. I want to start with the Stanley Cup odds, or the winner of the Stanley Cup, as we know that the Oilers were favored for the Stanley Cup most of the season. Today, they have fallen to third on that list.
Rightfully so.
Currently, the Dallas Stars are number 1 at plus 550. Florida Panthers also tied at number 1, plus 550. The Oilers are at 750. Next up, the Colorado Avalanche at plus 800. Golden Knights at plus 1,000. Then the Caps, then the Leafs at plus 1,100. How those odds sit for you, Tyler? The futures.
I think it's understandable that the two teams that jumped up the way they did, that makes sense. I also do think it's kind of funny. Like, I was listening to the start of the sheet today with Jeff Merrick, and everyone's kind of doing this. Merrick made a joke being like, the Stanley Cup Final is set. It's Dallas and Florida. And it's like, we do this every year, right? Every year there's one team that's the belle of the deadline, and this GM's the smartest man in the world, and they fall flat on their face come round 2 or something like that. So again, it's part of the reason I don't love and haven't bet on the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup the last couple of years. Not at all because I don't think they're capable of it. They are. But at these prices, plus 550, plus 750, it's just like, it's so hard to win the Stanley Cup. Parity's at such a high level, and like the gap and the difference that these trade pieces truly make is just, it's not that significant across the board. Like, what is the legitimate difference between 15 minutes of Brad Marchand a game or the 15 minutes of Oliver Bjorkstrand that the Lightning got? Like, there's a difference. Don't get me wrong. One's a better player, but in a best of 7 series, when again, it's everything's so thin, it's going to come down to a bounce. So like, I don't know. I think Florida and Dallas deserve to be up top. Am I sitting here and jumping to Bet365 to bet on those two teams to make the Cup Final? No, because I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if neither of them made it.
Stan Bowman kind of commented on that because somebody was asked him, obviously, about the arms race that went on. He said, in my experience, no matter where you are in the top 8, you're going to play a really good team. No question about it that some teams improved quite a bit on paper, but the real question is how it all comes together 2 months from now. Only time will tell.
And as Oilers fans, we've witnessed this all season. The Oilers won July 1st. Easily.
Boy, did they ever.
There was an awesome day.
Let Jeff cook.
Yep. What can't Jeff do? We were all screaming.
Yep.
And now here we are, leading up to the deadline, being like, is Jeff Skinner going to wave his no move? Like, where's he going? And it's like, who cares what all these teams have done? Like, Bowman's right. Like, it's not an easy matchup. And like, Vegas and LA and Minnesota, if that's our side of the bracket, then it's going to be a tough one. So, yeah, I think those odds are fair today. Those two teams deservedly jumped the Edmonton Oilers because they made such huge moves. They also had way more money to spend than what Edmonton did.
I really like the Tampa Bay Lightning at plus 1,200.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Andre Vasilevsky is back to looking like Vasilevsky.
Absolutely. Like, they're firing on all cylinders right now. And I really like the deal to go pick up Yanni Gordon, Oliver Bjorkstrand. They needed some depth. They needed some better players in that bottom 6, specifically on that third line. their defense, maybe leaves you wanting a little bit more. Victor Hedman, JJ Moser, Ryan McDonough, Eric Cernak, Emil Lilleberg, and Darren Radish. But like, you got Vasi in the crease. You know what I mean? And he's shown he's back to the top of his game right now. That's a really nice number at plus 1,200.
Let's look ahead at the.
Sorry, the one other team too, like Winnipeg plus 1,300 is.
Yeah,
that's also a great number.
Yeah.
Let's look at the Pacific Division. The line has shifted a little bit. Currently, Vegas is favored to win the Pacific at minus 300. Oilers are next up at plus 240. Then the Kings at plus 1,500. Then it drops to plus 25,000 when you get to the Canucks and the Flames. So, what about the Pacific? Do you think that Vegas is actually that heavily favored? Does that make sense to you?
It doesn't honestly make sense to me because it's taken a massive slide by the Edmonton Oilers for the Golden Knights to get, a 4-point lead on the Oilers. I guess they have a game in hand too. So like, they win that game in hand. You have 20 games from now till the end of the season to erase a 6-point gap, one head-to-head game. I don't know. I think it's honestly still kind of a coin flip, if I'm being totally honest. I think the Oilers' best hockey has not been shown yet this year. They're a team that traditionally plays well in these final few, sets of games towards the end of the regular season. So I think it's way closer to a coin flip than Bet365 might be saying.
I completely agree.
Zach, you agree, Zach?
Yeah, I agree too. And funny enough, I was actually looking up some numbers for my column this afternoon that I did. Over each of the last 3 seasons, the Edmonton Oilers in the months of March and April have a 52, 15, and 8 record and an NHL best 747 points percentage. That towers over top of the second place Dallas Stars' 708 and the third place for Florida Panthers 697. The Oilers also have a plus 93 goal differential in March and April, which is 24 goals better than the Florida Panthers, which are in second. So the Oilers know how to turn it on this time of year.
Just need it to happen. Tyler is left, I assume, for a Kaká.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Finally, I want to look at the Hart Trophy. This is the first time, at least that I can remember. Now, admittedly, I haven't looked at the Hart Trophy race in a minute. Leon Draisaitl is now favored minus 150 to win the Hart, followed by Connor Hellebuck at plus 130. Nathan McKinnon has dropped down to plus 600, which is actually some interesting odds there on McKinnon. Kucherov is then at plus 1,800, and our boy Connor McDavid plus 4,500. It seems like the betting public, at least, is now starting to figure out the kind of season Leon Draisaitl's having.
I think they're also figuring out the kind of season Connor Hellebuck is having. For him to jump up there as well. Like, I think McKinnon's obviously an unreal player, but I think those two, Draisaitl and Hellebuck, for me, are 1 and 2, and I don't think it should be anyone different.
Tyler, we're talking about the Hart Trophy odds. And like I was saying to the boys, I haven't looked in a while, but it seems like the betting public is now getting on board with Leon Draisaitl being the league's best player. He's favored at minus 150.
I'm stunned it's only minus 150, if I'm being honest. There's 20 games to go. He's got, 8 more goals than anyone else in the NHL or something like that?
There's 10. I think it's 10.
Like, what are we even talking about here? I just think, I guess you can make the Connor Hellebuck argument, but we know, look at the NHL. The voters are not going to vote for a goalie. They rarely are. It's once every 10 to 15 years a goalie gets it. So I think it's absolutely Draisaitl's award. He's got the fanfare behind it. He's got a big fan base pushing him, and the numbers just absolutely back it up.
Currently, he is 11 goals up on Mark Scheifele and William Nylander.
That's insane.
11 goals up. He now has 46 on the year. Looks like another 50-goal season for Leon is right around the corner.
Yeah, he's okay.
Spoiler, he's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Kid can play.
I think my favorite part about the season he's having, and I've written this on OilersNation.com 1,000 times now, I feel like, having him turn in a season like this immediately after signing his extension is just, it warms my heart.
What's his extension look like if it was like had to happen this summer?
What do we get?
Oh,
to
my Lord.
14?
Yeah.
Probably
15?
an extra million.
15?
Yeah.
15 and a half? Yeah.
15 and a half, yeah.
Well, so Leon signed for 14. Are you surprised that Rantanen signed for 12?
No, Leon's way better.
Leon has the center thing in him, right?
And an MVP.
And an MVP. And I mean, Rantanen has playoff success too, I guess, but
Well,
no,
actually, if you account for the tax implications of Mikko Rantanen's contract,
it is. I think Hart from Buckmedia he has a calculator for it. I think it's 12.5 mil is like he's getting an extra 500K basically a year. So sure. I always do laugh about that too. People make such a big deal about the no state income tax. Leon Draisaitl's getting 14 mil or USD to live in Canada and spend Canadian dollars most of the year.
Yeah, so his 14 is actually 20.
Like straight up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Then
I know that's again, I'm no economist, but
Draisaitl has
Don't sell
three
yourself
50
short.
goal seasons already. Obviously, going to have a fourth here pretty quick. Rantanen has one.
Well, I guess we're gonna find out pretty quickly if Mikko Rantanen was just a Nathan McKinnon merchant or not.
Is he the next Jonathan Huberdeau?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Whoa, that
That would be awesome.
so spicy.
That is a take.
I had
Oh.
a similar-ish thought driving into work today where I was just like, what if like, and this was more me thinking he's not going to sign somewhere, but like, what if they would have traded him to another stop, whoever it is, Florida, Toronto, and he doesn't do good there. And then I was like, would he ever take like a 1-year deal in the summer? Then I'm like, oh my God, that would be something. Like Mikko Rantanen's just never a star again.
But yeah, well, we'll see.
For the Western Conference's sake, let's hope.
You just collected the bag, so I also very much hope so.
Also, if you're an Avs fan right now, like try to put yourself in their shoes where it is now looking like we're getting Dallas, Colorado, round 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Can you imagine a world where the Oilers sit there and make like the really, really tough decision in January? They go, we got to trade Leon because we won't sign him. And they make the trade and you're upset and you're like, God damn, they traded Leon. I'm pissed. And then you have to play him round 1 of the playoffs. That's crazy.
Yep.
Like McKinnon versus Rantanen is going to be a thing.
I love it.
I love it too. I think it's great. I love everything about it. I love everything about it. Just like I love that I am behind all the questions for Ask the Idiots today. Me. First, I got to tell you about on Friday night. That is next Friday, March 14th. It is flight night at Greta. Edmonton takes on New York that night, which is that's a fun little game day anyway. But you can also get your shot at an unforgettable Nation vacation to join us in Vegas. One lucky winner and their guest will travel with Oilers Nation and the crew and the staff, and Tyler will be there.
Mm-hmm.
And fellow Nation vacationers as well to fabulous Las Vegas from March 30th to April 2nd. Edmonton will take on Vegas. And like, let's be honest, that game is probably going to be quite meaningful at that point in the
Division
season.
game.
So go on down to Greta next Friday for your chance to win. Makes sense. Why wouldn't you?
Why would you not?
Why would you not? All right, boys. A couple of Ask the Idiots questions from me because they're all trade deadline appropriate. Tyler, how concerned are you with what the other conference contenders did today?
Yeah, I'll go back to something I said earlier on. Not concerned because assuming this kind of stays the same, or I should say things play out the way I expect them to. The Oilers side of the bracket will be Vegas, LA, and Minnesota, and they did more than all of those teams combined, you could argue. So the Oilers got better compared to the teams they got to play round 1 and round 2. And like, what did we see last year, right? Dallas was a really good team, and Edmonton played great in the conference finals, and Stu was awesome. But Dallas's big guns ran out of gas because of everything they had to play through in rounds 1 and 2, beating Vegas and all of that. So like, I think there's a chance that someone ends up, whoever comes out of the Central, Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, they get to the conference finals and they're beat to shit. And Edmonton's sitting there going, oh, we just beat the Wild in 5 games. We've been chilling for a week. So I'm not worried about it at all.
Liam, how are you?
If I had to do it out of 10, I'll say, I think you've got to be a little worried by the time, like, hopefully they get to the Western Finals and have to play one of those teams. I'll say 6.5. But the Oilers did, again, like Tyler said, better than what could be on that side of the bracket.
Zach, how worried are you?
Modestly, like 50-50, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Winnipeg, they need to prove that they can do it in the playoffs. Like, they're obviously having a great regular season, but they did so last year as well. And look what happened to them in the first round against Colorado, right? The Avs, I think they had a pretty good trade deadline. Dallas, same thing with them. But again, we're not really seeing the Oilers teams, or the teams that the Oilers are in direct competition with, doing a whole lot. I mean, Vegas, what did they do at the deadline? Just picked up Riley Smith. Like, I think that was it, right?
Who's like fringe.
Come on. Like, he's not much of an improvement over what they already had. So
I would agree. For vibes.
I'm not worried about it, I guess, because if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And
Yeah.
it seems like every year teams in our division or conference make a trade and you go, oh, man. And then you just kind of, it's like Stan Bowman says, like, sure, they look good on paper today, but like, how's it all come together? So if I was to give a number out of 10, 5.
Yeah, 5, 6. I think that's
But
fair.
I also look around all of those teams, and none of them have Connor McDavid. None of them have Connor McDavid, where he hasn't exactly been playing his best hockey. So there's a lot more there. Leon Draisaitl is out of his mind right now. And I also think that, well, at least I'm hopeful that now that the trade deadline is gone and passed and through, maybe some of the guys who their names were popping up in the media or having fingers pointed at them, will they waive their no trade clause kind of thing? Maybe they settle down a little bit.
Yeah, no kidding.
The Oilers are going to need him to. I mean, Victor Arvidsson, like, you've spent 52% of your 5-on-5 ice time with Leon Draisaitl this year, and what do you have to show for it? Really not much. I mean, Jeff Skinner, he is like third on the team in goals per hour and points per hour at 5-on-5, and they're healthy scratching him still for some reason.
Well, you got it.
Like, I don't know what, it just doesn't make sense there. But like, yeah, again, and it's back to what I wrote at Oilers Nation this afternoon. I mean, the answers have to come from within the room. Connor McDavid has always played his best hockey in March and April and into the playoffs. Leon Draisaitl's the same way, and he's already having an incredible season. So the big guns got to get going, but so do some of those new acquisitions. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, BM, he's not been great this year. Zach Hyman, he's regressed from 54 goal Zach Hyman back to the regular role, 30 goal Hyman, which is fine, but he's been just really streaky this year. All of the guys in that room need to pick their game up.
I also I take no offense to the Nuge thing because look, I'm watching, right? The thing that's interesting with him though is when we pulled the numbers that Arvidsson has more 5-on-5 time with Connor and Leon than Nuge does, you go, well, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We know he works well with Connor. I don't know. Anyway, question number 2, Ask the Idiots, provided by me. I am the idiot today. Zach, you're up first this time. What grade would you give Stan Bowman in his first half season as Oilers GM? Because again, remember, July 1st was still Jeff Jackson.
I think July 27th is when he officially came in.
So you got to kind of put it from there onward. So what's your letter grade for Stan Bowman?
I'm going to give him a C+, because I think the offer sheets were still bungled.
Yeah.
They should have, hindsight's 2020, of course, right? But they should have figured out how to match both of those guys.
Or Holloway.
I think especially Holloway, but
especially Holloway. I think some of the in-season additions have been fine. Kapanen's been okay as a fourth liner. Klingberg, whatever. He's the number 7 defenseman now. I like the trade deadline for the most part from him, but I think because of the off-sheet stuff, it's going to be a C+ for me.
What do you got, Liam? What's your letter grade?
I think I want to say B because you've also got to include the Draisaitl re-signing in there as well. That's obviously big thing. He came in and got him to a reasonable deal. I think the off sheets, I agree, the biggest fumble he's obviously had, really thrown in the deep end on that one as he comes in with no money as it is to then try and navigate around all of that too. Holloway, obviously everyone wanted here. Broberg, I think, was more understandable to why they didn't offer him back, but recovering with Podkolzin and Emberson wasn't too bad. So I'll say B-, and the trade deadline has bumped that up for me a little bit too.
What's your grade, Tyler?
Really torn. I want to agree with the one of you, and I keep going back and forth in my head.
You could say C+, and you would meet us right in the middle.
Oh, did you? No,
I said C+.
You said C+,
damn
yeah.
it. Too bad.
I love the CC deal to turn CC into Emberson. I thought was awesome, and to get out that money, great. Not matching Holloway just stinks so bad. I think you can kind of sit right now. I really like Philip Broberg. He's having an unbelievable season. I still think there was a little part of me during that offer sheet that was like, Philip Broberg has done this for 10 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. There was risk there. I feel like there was less risk in Dylan Holloway, especially at the dollar value. So I don't love that. Podkolzin, I liked the swing, but it's almost been in baseball, you'd call it a hard hit out. I like the fact he swung. He made good contact. Podkolzin's just kind of been a it doesn't score. He's fine, but I'll say C+. I like the deadline though. I'm going to go B-. Yes. B-. I am going B-.
Damn it.
I think there's more good than bad, so I want to be a little bit nicer to him. And that is a good point. The Draisaitl extension, some people might be like, how much did he do? Can't pick and choose what you give the guy credit for. He was the GM. He got the deal done.
What are you looking at over there on that screen?
I think the Marchand deal is official.
What is it?
So according to Matt Porter of the Boston Globe, it's a conditional second-round pick. The condition being that if Marchand plays 25% of the games in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, the second becomes a first. So essentially, it's a first-round pick.
Yeah,
so
like, why
long
would
as
they
Florida
not?
can get out of the first round.
Why
Of the
would
playoffs.
why'd they not play him a quarter of
Yeah.
the games?
The Oilers wouldn't have been able to do that unless they moved that 2028.
Well, they
Because
could
that-
have traded 27, I think.
But that's
Well,
Which
because-
trade has gone?
because
Which
the
first has gone to
condition on-
Philly?
this year.
But that's top 12 protected. The Oilers aren't going to finish.
Yeah.
To San Jose, it's top 12.
Oh, no. How did that happen?
Oh no!
We should probably fix that. It's on my list.
Let's clip that.
Okay, so
Could have been
the
worse.
the Philly pick was top 12 protected,
Yes.
right? So it's going to be the 2026 first. Oh wait, now I'm confused. Now hold on a second.
Because like, which one goes for Wallman?
Because there's a condition on the Wallman trade that if the Oilers trade their 2027 first before next year's deadline,
Yeah.
it becomes a 28. Right?
So the Oilers traded their 2025 first to Philly.
Hmm.
If there was some deal that Edmonton wanted to trade their 2025 first, there was a condition with Philly that they could trade their 2025 first to someone else, but then Philly gets the pick unprotected in 2026. In the deal with Wallman, they basically did the same thing. They traded their 2026 first, therefore cementing that Philly's going to get their 2025 first, but kept the same condition on it where if Edmonton in a separate deal wanted to trade the 2026 first to get, call it Brad Marchand, then San Jose would have just gotten the first in 27.
Okay, we're making sense of things.
At least we got somebody who knows what the hell's going on here.
We're making sense of things.
It honestly didn't click until you got like halfway through it. Then I'm like, okay, now I think I got it. Actually.
Perfect. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yep.
As for the Bowman question, I'm giving him a B- because like, I also think it was tough for him to probably do some of the things he wanted to do today when 3/4 of the roster has a no move clause.
Yeah.
And that, for the most part, wasn't him.
All of it wasn't.
All of it wasn't.
No, I don't think anyone. No. Klingberg's the worst signing he's made.
But at the same point, I also don't like. I understand why you would take a flyer on a John Klingberg, right? Like,
Yeah, I think
agree.
it was total. I think it was worth it. I'm fine with it.
I think it was a
Although-
reasonable bet given the history of the player. It just probably hasn't worked out.
Although I watched how Cam Dineen looked yesterday, and I'm kind of like, you maybe should have just called up that guy for a little bit first. I actually like Cam
He
Dineen.
looked
The
good.
one giveaway was just horrendously terrible, but he was buzzing, and like by the end of the game, had earned enough trust to be out there in overtime.
Yeah, he got thrown out with Connor and Leon in overtime,
Which
that's
I'm
why
sure
I made the meme yesterday.
did you do the point?
Yeah.
Michael Kessel, who am I right?
We had that as a joke from the show, and there were a couple people who really didn't think I was kidding. Like, this idiot's back again. I'm like, listen, calm down, but like, still, Cam Dineen played all right.
Last question, and this is kind of a little bit inside baseball, but I'm curious because all four of us in the room have been around a minute now. So another trade deadline in the books, trade deadline live show in the books. How do you think, Tyler, we've improved from the first year we've done it up until what we just did today?
So the first year would have been Ekholm.
Yeah, I guess. How have we improved? I think it's like anything. You need to make mistakes to know their mistakes. And like, there's just certain little things that I don't even know how much the viewer would necessarily know that we've gone and like we've leveled up the graphics, the production, all of that stuff. But just purely from the shows, because that's my world. There were mistakes that were made in all of the 3 first years. And this year they weren't there. Like, you have to make those mistakes to be like, oh shit, never do that again. So it is kind of trial by fire a bit when you put together a live show out of nothing.
I thought you were talking about the Oilers.
Yeah.
I thought
No,
you,
I was talking about the trade deadline.
Okay.
Our
I
trade
was like,
deadline
oh,
show.
really? No. How's it got better?
you said it's behind. It was behind baseball or
Yeah,
whatever.
inside baseball.
Inside baseball. Yeah.
Yeah, things were good today.
How have we
Uh,
improved since the first time?
Well, the first time, I'm pretty sure I sat in the room with Tyler the whole time. So that was nice not to be locked in to such a tight space together for 5 hours.
Oh, because I would have been in the other studio, which is now just an empty space.
Yeah. Last year, I forget the second year, but last year, Aaron, Pat, and I sat in that room together, and it smelled terrible.
You were fatting.
Yeah, so that was a good upgrade this year to move upstairs to an Airbnb. So yeah, I think that's how we've improved. Just growing spaces.
Zach, you and I just kind of always consume it as viewers.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I think the guests have gotten better every year. I think that's been a nice addition. I think the graphics and like watching it, that kind of stuff has been a huge improvement as well. And I mean, the viewership years over years has continued to to increase as well, which has been great to see.
For me, it was just like you said, you kind of start something in a project and you kind of try and figure it out, like as Tyler says, as you go. Some things you can't plan for, you just kind of got to work your way through it. But like as I'm watching the show today, you see former NHL players doing their, pre-recorded videos or whatever, but talking about their experiences at the trade deadline. Really nice little ad. Last year, we had a countdown clock, a physical clock behind Tyler's head.
Yep.
This year,
That didn't work.
Yeah, it just kept turning off.
this year, it was all built into the show itself. So we're leveling it up every year. And I hope if you were watching it, please go watch it it's on YouTube, by the way. Go subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel if you missed it. I just think it looks a lot better. The guests are better. We have more guests, more voices. We've got former NHLers now joining the show. I think the trade graphics, that the Matt Larkin trade grades were awesome. The graphics for those. So I just think as a whole, as a consumer, I thought it was a lot of fun to watch this year. And I thought everybody on the production side did a great, great job. So congrats, Tyler.
My job gets easier every year, which I think is the true mark of a good process. If your host can just like sit down and fucking let her buck for 5 hours and doesn't have to worry about anything, your process is good.
How many peas you sneak in today?
I didn't piss once during the whole broadcast.
That might be the most impressive part of it all.
I drank a large Tim Hortons coffee and my entire 24-ounce water bottle and a Nestea white peach sweet tea.
Did you just not drink fluids for the last 48 hours or what?
No, I don't know how I didn't piss, but I didn't piss once. It was crazy.
All right.
How quickly did you piss after the show ended?
Quick. And it was like a solid, like, this isn't going to sound jogging, but it was like a 55-second piss. I was just like,
Tyler's a
oh.
camel.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Impressive.
There you go. Ask the idiots questions. Slide on into my DMs. We're going to get back to our regularly scheduled programming next week, but just wanted to stick with the trade deadline. So slide on into my DMs. And in the meantime, plan to be at Greta next Friday. It's flight night at Greta downtown in Edmonton. We're going to have a good time with that. Hot, cold performers, boys. Let's wrap up the podcast. I'm sure the boys are tired. Been a big day. Zach's written a lot of words. Tyler said a lot of words. Liam crushed all the green onion cakes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Shout out to Oodle. All right, fellas, let's do our hot and cold performers. But as we always do, we start with our veggies. And I want to tell you, go nationgear.ca. Still a couple of spots left on the Nation vacation. We're down to singles now. Like, don't procrastinate. It's selling out. Join us. We're going to have a blast.
Join us.
As if you don't want to be there. Come on. Nationgear.ca is where you can find the final couple of spots, whether that's the flight package, the non-flight package, or just want to get yourself some fresh threads. Everybody's wearing Nation gear today, and everybody looks very handsome. Cold performers of the week. I'm starting with Zach Lang. You are our guest host today. You're a cold performer of the week.
Oh boy, cold performer of the week. I was not prepared for this. I thought we were going to go with the hot performers first.
Could be anything.
Could be anything.
Literally
It's
anything.
the beauty of the segment.
I went and got a breakfast sandwich on the way into the office today. Had eggs on it. I'm allergic to eggs. Had to still eat the breakfast sandwich because I was driving and it was too hot for me to pull off. So my cold performer is the hot breakfast sandwich that I had because I forgot. I couldn't think of anything else. So that's what it was.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
That reminds me, my old man loves scallops. Problem? Allergic to them. Still goes back to the well anyway.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to suffer through it. You find something interesting on Instagram over there?
No, the Stan Bowman interview just started playing.
Liam? Cold performer of the week?
Cold performer of the week. I think it's got to go to the utensils chopsticks. I had a very difficult time.
I saw that. You were battling today.
Yeah, with the noodle nail.
Liam.
Just couldn't get it in.
We were missing
I
the
know.
landing spot. We couldn't stick the landing. I
No,
noticed.
and I worked at a Chinese restaurant for many years. I just couldn't master it today.
What the hell is going on?
It's a good button.
Tyler. For nationgear.ca, cold performer of the week.
I'm so happy neither of you guys took this one. Matthias Janmark's breakaway was the
Oh!
most atrocious thing I've seen watching the Edmonton Oilers this year. I told Liam it was the most stunning thing I've seen in person at an Oilers game this season, and I've seen Leon Draisaitl score from the other side of the ice. Janmark's breakaway.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
Full breakaway, opposite blue line in, missed the net by 3 feet.
Not even Rick can defend that.
If he was here, he would.
He would be
but
like-
he's like, listen, he was trying to dump it into the corner the whole time. You guys just didn't know what he was
It's a
planning.
safe play. You yell at him all the time for turning it over.
My cold performer of the week, Now, this is going to be a little bit. Jason Gregor had Oscar Klefbom on his show yesterday. That is not the cold performer. Love seeing Oscar back in the city. Still handsome as all hell.
Yeah.
In the middle of that interview, Jason Gregor said, Bagged Milk from Oilers Nation wants to know if you still have those abs. I did not ask this question.
Kind of did.
Well, listen, in a roundabout way, by posting the picture of him with the statue, you already know the picture just by me saying it several hundred times over the course of a handful of years. I understand why he would do that. However, in this particular instance, I think Jason Gregor wanted to know, and he used me as his patsy. Jason, you wanted to know, and you know you did.
We're on to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cold.
There you go. Jason, I'm watching you. Reversing the order. Hot performers. Tyler, you're up first for nationgear.ca, your hot performer of the week.
My bar for him was low, and he actually exceeded it. I'm surprisingly enough going to give it to Lou Lamoriello. I thought getting the return he did for Brock Nelson was awesome. Should have traded Kyle Palmieri, but you know what, Grandpa? You did good today, buddy. Have yourself a Werther's original and kick back and relax. Getting that return is sick.
He's a hot guy.
But they've been unwrapped in a bowl for several years.
They're all sticky.
Yeah, it's just like you pull one out and it's
like
all the
actually
Werthers come in. Yeah.
Let's move away from the Werther's hate though.
I love Werther's.
I enjoy
Love a
Werthers.
good
Yeah.
Werther's.
I
especially
enjoy
love the,
Werther's.
like real caramel ones, not the hard ones, the soft
Yeah.
ones.
Oh, those are lovely.
Murder those.
Come on.
All
Green
very
apple?
Good.
Come on.
Shout out Werther's.
Everybody loves the Werthers.
Yeah.
Liam, hot performer of the week?
Mine's gonna go to Jack Roslovic.
Oh, sick.
So he plays for Carolina,
Mm.
and he wore the number that Mikko Rantanen wanted to wear. So Mikko Rantanen bought him a Rolex, and now
Oh, hell yeah.
Jack Roslovic gets to get his number back and has a Rolex.
Fuck yeah.
So there you go.
The system works.
Credit for-
on.
and also Werther's.
I'm going to give
Thank you.
you on. Zach, you're up next. Hot performer of the week.
We're keeping this one local. Everybody within the Nation Network that had anything to do with the trade deadline today, from the websites to the shows to the podcasts to the clips to the social team, everybody did such a great job today. I cannot wait to see what the numbers are and everything that we did, because network wide, I think we absolutely crushed it today.
Yeah, I agree.
It's getting hot here.
I'm going to go back to kind of like the other half of my cold performer. I just liked seeing Oscar Klefbom back in the city.
Yeah.
You know, like, and if you listen to the Jason Gregor interview, and we're going to have some content about it up at OilersNation.com this weekend. I didn't really realize how much it sucked for him to the point where he wasn't even watching hockey of any kind
Yeah, that sucks.
because of how disappointed he was with the end of his career and just how much it meant to him to be back at Rogers Place for the first time since the bubble. So just seeing Oscar Klefbom back in the city, still looks like he could play. Still devastated that they lost him at 31 years old. He should still be an Edmonton Oiler, but didn't work out that way. I'm just happy to see him though. Still very handsome. Didn't ever get the answer about that abs though. Might have to follow up. I mean, Gregor might have to follow up. Anyway.
Why I'm hot because I'm fly. I ain't because you not.
As we do to wrap up every podcast, the Edmonton Oilers play the Dallas Stars tomorrow. Stars just got Rantanen. It's a big trade, but I want a score prediction. Zach, what do you got tomorrow? Oilers, Stars, score prediction.
6-5 Edmonton Oilers victory.
Woo, bet the over. Liam.
3-2 Oilers overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Stuart Skinner turnaround starts now. 3-1 Oilers.
You're really going to enjoy 11-1 win. It's a big Saturday night for
Who scores
Edmonton.
for Dallas?
Probably one of the Oilers. Matthias Janmark, actually.
Just finds a way.
He finds a way. Wrong net. Oh, you know what? That's who scores. It's Cody Ceci. It's written in the stars. But other than that, enjoy the win. Have a great weekend. And just to touch on Zach's point, thanks for consuming everything we made today.
A lot of eyeballs on the site. It was great.
A lot of eyeballs on the sites, a lot of eyeballs on socials, and thank you to everybody that watched the Daily Face-Off Live Trade Deadline show. We will be back on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.